What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to our channel, Honest Hockey Takes. This is Scott and I'm Howin, and today we will be talking about our predictions for this upcoming NHL season. Today we'll be starting with the Metropolitan Division.
So here's how this is going to work. Each of us is going to take turns, and we're going to start counting from 8 at the bottom, the team that we think will be dead last in the division, and go all the way up to number 1. And then at the end,
we're gonna battle out on all our differences because obviously we're not agreeing on the same.
no,
we are not gonna agree on the same
really
thing.
Don't. Not at all.
But because I am so nice and so generous today, I'm gonna let Scott start with his list. Then I will start with my list, and then we will battle it out later.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Welcome.
All right, here we go.
Right. Scott, take it away.
All right, guys. Here goes my list for the Metropolitan Division. Starting out at number 8, the Philadelphia Flyers. Honestly, this team has taken quite a dive. Last year, I honestly figured they would be a contender for a playoff spot, and boy was I ever surprised when I saw how pathetic the effort they put was. Their defense adds were with Ristolainen and Ellis. Ellis played 4 games and then basically did nothing for the team, and Ristolainen was minus $1 million again for like 30th time in his career, what it feels like. So I really don't see anything this team did other than add John Tortorella to his coaching staff that would make me have any confidence in them being any better than they were last year. And honestly, pretty much every other team in this division has made some kind of add to make them a better team. So this is why I can't have Philadelphia any higher than number 8. Alrighty, coming in at number 7. This one might start to be a bit of a shocker for everyone here, but I honestly have the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know they went out and added Johnny Hockey to this team, and that is like a 100-point player added to a team that's kind of always been in the mix or mediocre, but I just can't see it. I don't see this team being better than the teams ahead of them. The goaltending is shaky. I don't really trust the duo of Merzlikins and Korpisalo. Honestly, I don't even know if Korpisalo still is an NHL caliber goaltender at all. I don't really think they have much depth, and the center position worries the crap out of me. When Boone Jenner is your number 1 center, I really don't think you're a playoff team, let alone being any higher than 7 on this list. Ever since they lost John Tortorella, this team has just not been the same. The system's not the same, and they just don't have what it takes, and I can't put them any higher. All right, coming in at number 6 on my list, I have the New York Islanders. This team had quite a run. I mean, making 2 Final Fours in a span of back-to-back years, and I mean, 2 of the last 4. I mean, you have to give them some respect. But honestly, the biggest loss they could have had this offseason was losing their coach, Barry Trotz. This team does not have what it takes, in my opinion, to be a playoff team anymore. That offense is stale. No one on that team put up over 60 points last year. Like, can you imagine a team that doesn't have a 60-point player? And then on top of that, their age. This is like the second oldest team in the entire NHL right now. I can't take this team to go any higher than 6 in this division, especially with how much better these other teams have gotten over the year. I have to say, I will give them credit. Their goaltending is pretty pristine. Like, having a duo of Sorokin and Varlamov is why I have these guys over the Columbus Blue Jackets here at 6. And their defense is something they can actually look forward to, because honestly, when you have Dobson and Romanoff in your 3-4 and they're both 22 years old, you know that eventually your team's going to have some potential. But their offense, I can't overlook it. I just don't know how they're going to score goals. And it seems like the only way they'll be able to compete is if they try to strangle teams to 1-0, 2-1 games, and it's just not going to work. So coming in at number 5, I got the New Jersey Devils. This is probably the first one that makes everyone that's watching this, they're jumping off their seats. They're like, what? Did this guy just have New Jersey that close to a playoff spot? And yes, I do. This team is a lot better than people give it credit for. They have made some significant adds in this offseason. Adding Andre Palat, especially with his playoff experience, is going to be vital for not only the leadership, but if they do make a run down the stretch and they're close, he's going to give them those intangibles that they need to actually compete with these other teams that have been there. And on top of that, you're getting Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes with an extra year of experience. Both these guys had career years last year. They both looked way better. They're actually starting to look like what they're supposed to be in first overall picks. And this defense is very underrated. Like, honestly, I don't think people realize when you got guys like Adam Graves, Jogan Siegenthaler, who's one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, but no one talks about him. As a Washington Capitals fan, I was crushed to lose that guy. Very underrated player. And then last year, the reason that they were such a terrible team in drafting in the lottery, they had probably the worst goaltending I have ever seen for a season. Like, I think it was something like 51 goals versus expected that they allowed. And you know what? Adding Vanacek to that, That's going to help. And there's no way between Blackwood and Vanacek they can do anywhere near as bad as they did last year. So this is why I have the New Jersey Devils as high as 5 on my Metropolitan Division list. And coming in at number 4, I have the Washington Capitals, my personal favorite team. Unfortunately for Washington, they got some unfortunate news this offseason. Backstrom and Wilson will both be missing a substantial amount of time. This really impacted where I wanted to put Washington. It was a bit of a tale of two sides here because they actually went out for the first time in a long time and made some key adds. They added Connor Brown, who's a really feisty, energetic player who can score 20 goals if you need him to, as well as adding on a goaltender, which is a huge upgrade from Ilya Samsonov and Vanacek, in Darcy Kemper, who has been one of the best goaltenders in the last 5 years in the regular season. I think he actually leads in save percentage, which is kind of insane. Makes me really excited, honestly. And then a center in Dylan Strome. I think that ad is pretty controversial. He's kind of been one of the few players from the 2015 draft to almost bust, you could say. I mean, he still gets 40, 50 points here and there when he played with Patrick Kane, but he has definitely not lived up to the hype. But I am kind of excited to see how he does in place of Backstrom, because it's looking like he's going to be the second line center here. The reason I have Washington at 4 is because I just can't consider their depth enough without these players to beat the teams I have ahead, simply. I think if they had everyone at full strength, they could be higher on this list. But unfortunately for now, this is as high as I can put them. At number 3, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins, which kills me as a Capitals fan to say, because it just brings back PTSD of all the times they were better than us in the past and ruined our playoff hopes. But looking at Pittsburgh's roster, they really haven't done anything to mess with the core. They still have Crosby, they still have Malkin, and this team is actually pretty deep in the top 6 with Rust and Gunsel there as well, and Zucker. They can score goals, and adding Raquel at the end of last year too, is he didn't get to play much because of injury, but a healthy season of Raquel, former 30-goal scorer, along with those types of passers, I think that could be some pretty good chemistry after a while. Tristan Jarry in net was actually, he was kind of back and forth, but when he was on, this guy was on. I remember for the first half of last season, he was in the Vezina conversation, and everyone was pretty surprised because the previous season in the playoffs, he looked completely awful and just dropped the ball. So it all depends, I guess, on which Tristan Jarry shows up for them this season. I think he's going to be good enough regardless with this team in front of him to finish 3rd in this division. I think that Pittsburgh just really has one concern, and that's the depth of their defense. They went out and added Stanley Cup champ, 2-time Stanley Cup champ, I guess, Jan Ruda from Tampa, as their 5-6 defense pair guy. But I don't really think that that's going to change too much of their fortunes, honestly, because overall they still just have a lot of offensive defensemen, especially adding Ty Smith, who for the Devils was a bit of a defensive liability the past couple seasons, and losing John Marino, who was arguably one of their top 2 or 3 defensive defensemen. I just don't know how that's going to go for them, but they definitely will be trying to look to outscore teams, that's for sure. And coming in at number 2, dropping 1 spot from last year, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. This team is honestly pretty much the same, minus 1 key loss, which actually in this division was quite the shakeup. Carolina lost Vincent Trocheck, and I think that's going to really show. In the playoffs last year, I thought Vincent Trocheck was probably their MVP, honestly. This guy didn't take shifts off. He was making plays. And against that series against the Rangers, he really stood out to me as like the best player on the ice for the Carolina Hurricanes. But that, along with losing D'Angelo and adding in Burns, it was kind of an odd offseason for them. I felt like they didn't really do too much positive, but at the same time, they have the core of Svechnikov, Aho, Tervenainen, and Rod Brind'Amour is still the coach, and he's pretty much just breeded playoffs after playoffs after playoff run. Granted, they can't get past round 2 ever, but I mean, this is the regular season we're talking about, not the playoffs right now. And I think that Carolina they're just going to be better than other teams. Their defensive style, where they grind you down, and they can win those 2-1 games, 1-0 games if they have to. But they can also score 5-6 goals sometimes. They're kind of an anomaly that way. And I mean, every year, those 2 goalies, Anderson and whoever they end up having as the backup, is going to be in the running for the Jennings because their system is just so good defensively. And finally, coming in at number 1, I have the New York Rangers. This team really exceeded my expectations last year. I thought they might push for a playoff spot, but I had no idea that they'd be a Final Four team. They just looked way better than they were in previous seasons. Shesterkin stood on his head and had one of the best goaltending seasons I've seen in like the last 15, 20 years, and it was honestly incredible. I do think he will come down from there because I think it's pretty hard to repeat that, but he is still probably right now the second best goaltender in the world. And with that defense in front of him, with Trouba, Fox, and Keandre Miller, and Ryan Lindgren, who gets no love, but that guy is a warrior. This guy fights for every puck. He blocks shots. He's just honestly the perfect type of player to have with someone like Adam Fox, who you can just let free and go score goals and jump up on the play. So a really good complement to each other. And then, like I just said previously with Carolina, gaining Vincent Trocheck, what an upgrade over Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome at times looked so bad, and I think this is finally what the Rangers needed to get a true number 2 center to go behind Zibanejad. And that top 6 is now looking really healthy. And as bad as Lafreniere has been in his first 2 seasons, I do think that he will break out a little bit this year. I don't think he's going to be what he was hailed to be. I don't think he's a superstar. He's not going to be like an Austin Matthews type player, Connor McDavid, going first overall and just putting up like 100, 110 points. But I do think he can get up to like the 50, 55 point range and actually be quite serviceable for this team and kind of complement Kreider and Zibanejad on that top line. And I think Panarin is due for a bounce back. Honestly, it's kind of scary when you think about it. The Rangers really didn't score all that many goals, and Panarin wasn't exactly himself, and they still finished second last year. And that's why I think with the bounce back season and an improved second line overall, I don't see why this team isn't first in this division this year.
This is my turn. This is your boy Howin, and this is my turn to share my list. And at number 8, I have the New York Islanders. Yes, the New York Islanders. They lost the most important component to their team that made them successful, and that is Barry Trotz. And yes, I know they do have Sorokin, who is a top 5 goalie in this league, but I'm worried about that offense. If you look at that offense, they have a bunch of old players that, other than Brock Nelson and maybe Matthew Barzal, they don't really have much firepower. And I'm a little bit worried about that, and especially with all the other teams in this division that has improved, I can't have them any higher than number 8. I know they do have a good top 4. I know they traded for Romanov, who's a very terrific hitter. He's a very good defensive defenseman, a young kid, and he's going to be playing with a very good Noah Dobson. So it's going to be interesting to see this team play this year. Even at number 8, this New York Islanders team to me is still a pretty good team, but unfortunately, the teams ahead are just better. And at number 7, I have the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils went out and added Andre Palat, which is a very good ad, and they added John Marino in the back end, who I'm a huge fan of. Me as an Oilers fan, I was so pissed when we gave this guy up to Pittsburgh for almost nothing. But you know what? I think one of the most exciting thing about this New Jersey Devils team is going to be the young guys, and that's specifically Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. I think these two guys are very, very good. Jack Hughes is definitely a franchise level centerman in this league, and it's going to be very exciting to see how he's going to play this season. I definitely project, if he's healthy, I expect that he hits about 80 to 90 points this season. I don't trust their goalies with Vanacek and Blackwood. I just don't see this team. This team will be good, but the problem is, again, the teams ahead are better. And at number 6, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. I know a lot of people pretty much have this team in the bottom. I get it. This team is reportedly to have a cancer locker room and all that, but in the end of the day, this team just got a coach that I feel very strongly about in John Tortorella. I've seen this coach coached a very bad Columbus Blue Jackets team with almost nobody on that team and turned it around. So if he can do it on that team, why shouldn't he be able to do it in this team? And on top of that, yes, they're not going to have Sean Couturier for most of the season, which is a bummer. But at the same time, they have someone called Carter Hart. And I'm excited to see how Carter Hart is going to play in this team, because Historically, most of John Tortorella's coach teams have very good goaltending, and that's because the defense play a very strong defensive structure, which allowed goalies like Merzlikins and Korpisalo look like all-stars on those teams. So that's why I feel very strongly about the Philadelphia Flyers. And on top of that, they have a lot of good wingers as well. They have Cam Atkinson who can score. They have Konechny who can score. They have Joe Farabee. They have a bunch, and the list goes on. They have a lot of guys. The only problem I have with this team is the depth, and they're young guys. The improving young guys. I want to see how they do, especially Morgan Frost and the newly acquired Owen Tippett. I want to see how they do. On top of that, they already have Ristolainen and Sanheim, who I'm a huge fan of. Sanheim is a terrific two-way defenseman that nobody talks about, and that's why I feel so strongly about the Philadelphia Flyers. At number 5, I have the Washington Capitals. Washington is a good team. Like I said, even 1 to 8, all these teams are good. Unfortunately, some of them not all of them are going to make the playoffs, and Washington is going to be a victim because, first of all, they're not going to have Tom Wilson, and they're not going to have Nicholas Backstrom to start the season, which is a huge disadvantage for them to start the season. These are 2 good players that they're not going to have right off the bat. On top of that, the team is an aging core. The team is 1 year older. Everyone's a year older. TJ Oshie's a year older. Ovechkin's a year older. And another guy specifically I want to touch on is Kuznetsov. Yes, he's a good player. He had a good season. But last year, I feel like he had a high season. I expect his numbers to dip this year. But in the end of the day, I do like what they added. I like Connor Brown a lot. He's a very underrated player who can play a gritty game, play on the boards, plays hard, and I really like Connor Brown. That's a great ad. Dylan Strome is an interesting ad. I'm not the greatest fan of Dylan Strome. I did watch him when he played for Chicago, and he did get a lot of points at times. But the problem is I question his defensive capabilities. At number 4, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yes, I know they added Johnny Hockey. I know he's a good player and everything. This team, I still have lots of big questions for. They do not, in my opinion, they do not have a number 1 center on this team. I mean, but they have Boone Jenner, who in my mind is okay. He's like good for like a 3rd line role, but he's definitely not a top 6 center in the league. But when I look further on the team, they still do have Patrick Laine, who can score at any given moment. They do have some very talented young rookies in Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, and they also have Marchenko, who's coming up. And I'm very excited to see how this guy plays because a lot of Columbus Blue Jackets fans are hyping this guy up like he's the next best thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team turns out. And also, I don't think Merzlikins is as bad as what people say he is. I've watched him play. He just didn't have the defensive support last year. I thought the team just didn't play very good in front of him. But hopefully this team outscores what they give up. Am I confident with their defense? No, not really. I did not like the ad of Goodbranson for 4x4. I think that's one of the worst signings in the offseason. I don't think Goodbranson's worth anywhere close to $4 million. And I think a lot of Columbus Blue Jackets fans will attest to that. But at the same time, he is still a viable 3rd pairing defensive D-man. So I guess in the end of the day, they needed someone to kill penalties. But one of the big bloodlines of this team will be Zach Werenski, because Zach Werenski is by far the most important defenseman on this team. And I've seen how this team plays when Werenski plays on the team and when he doesn't play on the team, and it's a night and day difference. And so one of the key factors with this team is going to be Zach Werenski staying healthy and playing close to at least the full season. And if he can do that, I like their chances. At number 3, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina Hurricanes is a very interesting team. I know they went out and added Brent Burns and they added Max Pacioretty. But keep in mind, I can't do this list thinking that Max Pacioretty isn't going to play very many games because he never does. But when he does, he's a very good. I love how he puts 8 shots on goal per game, and I love how he can score a lot of goals. But in the end of the day, they lost one of the most important centers on the team, and that's their number 2 center in Vincent Trocheck, who is very good. And now he went to the rival New York Rangers in that same division. So This team has a very good coach. Rob Brammore's a very good coach. They still got a lot of the core in Svechnikov and Aho and all that, and Netchis and all those guys. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how this team plays. I'm excited. Carolina is personally not my most favorite team, but at the same time, I do respect how they win a lot of games the way they do. So, and lastly, I want to touch on is that they do have one of the top 5 best goalies in the game, and that's Freddie Anderson. And you can never doubt this guy. He is just MVP. He's just Vezina caliber goalie, and they're lucky to have him. So that's why I have Carolina at number 3. At number 2, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. And yes, I know this is surprising because Pittsburgh has a very old core. It all comes down to their health. And if Malkin can play at least 70 games this upcoming season and Crosby can play at least 70 games, they have one of the most stacked centers in the league with him, Malkin, and Jeff Carter. And I love this player, Jake Gensel. He's one of the best snipers in the game. He put up 40 goals last year, and I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do that again this year. I'm also a big fan of Brian Rust. I think he's at his peak of his career. He's 30 years old. I feel like he's a very capable 30-goal scorer. And on top of that, they added Jeff Petrie. Jeff Petrie is going to be huge on this team. Jeff Petrie is a right-handed shot, top 4 defenseman who played very well a couple years ago in Montreal. He did not play good last year in Montreal, unfortunately, but the whole team didn't play well in Montreal last season. But I have high faith in... I do like Jeff Petrie's game a lot, and I like him being on this team, being the top 4 defenseman on this team. And last player I would like to add is Ty Smith. Ty Smith is low-key a very important player on this team because Letang always gets injured. If he gets injured, now they have a viable secondary option on the power play. And that's huge for them because before they just didn't have that. They had John Marino on the power play and Dumoulin on the power play. These guys just aren't the same. Matheson, they're just not the same. So having Ty Smith is actually a low-key and a good add for them. And Tristan Jarry is a pretty good goalie. So that's why I have this team at number 2. I know they're an old aging core, but I still believe this team is going to have one last hurrah, and that's going to be this upcoming year. At number 1, and by process of elimination, I have the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers are just stacked everywhere. They're just good at defense, they're good at offense, they're good at everything. The only question I have with them is how will Lafreniere play after last season, and how would Kako play? Because these two will be playing, are projected to play top 6 full time, and they better contribute because they haven't popped off. To me, they have not popped off that they should based on their draft. And New York Rangers definitely need these 2 players to contribute to at least a 50 to 60 point level each to have good success. So that's going to be the big question mark with this team. I am very confident that Panarin is going to have a rebound season. He's going to have a terrific season. I love the add of Vincent Trocheck on the second line center. He's a massive, massive upgrade to Ryan Strome. I love their defense. Their top 4 is legit. I love Adam Fox, and obviously they have one of the best goalies in the game in Shesterkin. There's other than him and Vasi, the 2 of the best in the game. So this team, I have no worries about. They're going to be number 1 in my mind.
Wow. Dude, I thought this channel was called Honest Hockey Takes. I don't know how you can honestly tell me that you have the Islanders at 8 and Philadelphia at 6. I want you to explain yourself. What is it you see about Philadelphia that they should be better than the New York Islanders?
Listen, they have Carter Hart. Carter Hart's a good goalie, no?
Do you think, like straight up, that Carter Hart is a better goalie now than Ilya Sorokin?
He's not. I said this on my take, that Ilya Sorokin is a top 5 goalie in the league. So I did say that.
I want to hear this logic.
You got to understand this. New York Islanders cannot score. So they're going to rely on 1-0, 2-0 every game. They're going to rely on 1 goal, 2 goals every game. They can't score. If you can't score, you can't win games. Yes, you can defend well. They do have a good top 4 defense. But they also have a very good goalie tandem. Yes, they do. But again, Varlamov always gets injured. When he is down, you have to rely on Sorokin being number 1. And who's going to be your backup to that, right? And again, going back to the New York Islanders, they don't have anyone to score. Versus Philadelphia, they do.
Okay, pause. I want to hear this. So who is this for the camera here,
Yeah.
who is this that you have on Philadelphia that can currently score? No Sean Couturier. Giroux's gone and out of town. Their prospects suck. Morgan Frost is not good.
I agree
Owen
with you.
Tippett is not good.
I
These
agree
guys
with
aren't
you.
going to change your franchise.
I agree with you, but they still got Konechny.
Yeah, he's going to score you 50 goals?
Did he score something?
Yeah, I don't think so. He might get you 21, 22.
You got a bunch of guys. I know. The big question I did say is Morgan Frost. I don't know how well he'll do, but watch.
Oh, I know. Not very well.
Tortorella is gonna make sure this defense core is gonna play better. There's no question about that. John Tortorella is gonna be a big difference maker. He has transformed teams in the past. I don't see why not.
He can't transform that right away.
He won't be able to
needs help.
But I have them at 6. It's not like I have them at 4. Come on. Like 6 is still pretty low.
Like in that division with how deep it is, I think 6 is a little generous. This team's rebuilding. This team is not in any way contending right now.
No, I disagree. I think
you think their team, looking at that roster, you go top down, you think that team is better this year than it was last year.
Yeah.
So they lost their entire first line.
Listen, they were so bad. I don't even see how they can be even worse than that. And secondly, they technically didn't have Couturier for the whole year.
Everyone else got better, and they didn't have those guys.
Couturier wasn't really even playing the whole season. I don't know, fantasy hockey, he didn't do anything. So
yeah, he only played for like the first third of the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, then they lost Giroux.
That's a big loss. I agree.
So bad.
I agree. They lost Giroux. But I just don't see how they're this bad again.
So you don't think they're in the Connor Bedard watch?
No, because no.
Nah, yeah, you look like you're breaking a little bit there. No. I don't know if you believe in your conviction here.
I definitely believe. First of all, I would say this with certainty. I am pretty certain that the Philadelphia Flyers are better than the New York Islanders. That I can say with certainty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've admitted to me that Sorokin's a better goaltender than
He is better.
Okay.
Yep.
And you will also admit to me that the New York Islanders defense is infinitely better than Philadelphia.
It's not infinitely better. It is better.
So what has been regarded as one of the best defensive pairings in the last 3 years?
Yeah,
Pollock and Pelech?
Yeah.
And then you went on saying earlier about how you really believed in the pairing of Noah Dobson and Romanov. Yep. So I don't see, and I know personally that you're a big Mayfield guy.
Yeah, I am a big Mayfield
guy. So yeah, this guy's a big Mayfield guy.
I love Mayfield.
I don't see what part of that defense you don't like, and that you can compare Philadelphia.
I love their defense. But the problem, again, they can't score. Tell me a forward on their team that can score.
Okay, but when they made these runs to the Final Four in the last couple years,
they had Barry Trotz.
They did have Barry Trotz.
Who's this coach?
But did Barry Trotz make them score? I'm pretty sure they still won games.
They did.
No, they still won games 2-1, 3-2.
They did so good because they were playing like turtles. They're like playing turtles. They're like defending the castle, and then when they can score, it's like, oh, the puck's there. I can try and score now. That's how they do it.
Yeah, so
That's how they do it.
You don't think they still have this natural? They know how to turtle. I'm pretty sure they know how to turtle.
No. This is gonna be like the whole Columbus Blue Jacket thing, where the new coach came over and he wanted this flashy type of game. He wanted everyone to play faster, play more aggressively, and then they leak offense. So look at
this guy's gonna go tell Anders Lee go score 40 goals. Go. Yeah, you think that's gonna happen?
It won't happen. Exactly. Anders Lee isn't gonna score.
They're not gonna play like that. They're not going to change their entire system for what worked for so many years. They might change it a little bit.
The only guys that I like up in the forward group on that team currently is Brock Nelson, who I think is quite good. And Wallstrom could be, depending, but all I see him
You don't like Barzell?
And Barzell. But Barzell is not, to me, he's a good player, but he's like a top, 30 to 50 player.
We're just looking, we're not looking at all NHL teams here.
Yeah.
We are looking at, right now, in this discussion, the New York Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Right.
Who is more of a game breaker of both those teams? If you only could pick one game breaker between the teams, is it not Matt Barzell?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So they have a better goalie, they have a better defense, and they have a better game breaker.
But that's one player.
So, but you're going through their defense, goaltending, and their best player is better at offense. So yes, they don't score a lot of goals. Where are those extra wins coming from? They can't strangle a team to a 2-1 win. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, teams
can score.
Just watch when the season comes, and they're licking their lips.
Just
like,
watch
oh,
when
shit.
the season comes. Watch when the season comes. Konechny is gonna score again. He had a really down year. I just don't see him being that bad again.
He's about to see what a really down year looks like then. Because
well, listen. If that happens, John Tortorella is gonna kick his ass. There's no other ways about it. This guy is a bit hard coach.
I can't with you. Next, what did you have the biggest problem with my rankings? Which team really got you the most?
You don't have Columbus Blue Jackets in the playoffs. Why?
Why would I have Columbus Blue Jackets in the playoffs?
Why?
What part about them is a playoff team to you? I don't understand.
They are a good team, I think. They're good enough to be in the playoffs. They're better than Washington Capitals.
I want to see if you remember this. Who was their leading goal scorer last year?
I actually don't know.
Oliver Bjornstrand. Guess where he is? He left.
You
got Johnny Hockey. But you literally got rid of your other best player.
Listen, Oliver Bjornstrand is overrated. I don't think he's a very good player. He can score. I like that he can score. But the thing is, you look at this guy. He's like -20 in last season. -20, and you watch how he plays. He creates so many turnovers in the team. He's good on the power play, but that's it. He's not a good 5-on-5 player.
So you got your first line. You got your Johnny. You got your line A.
Yeah.
What else is that team doing? What's the depth doing?
I like the Cole Sillinger, Kent Johnson, and the Marchenko line. I want to see how that does. It's an exciting young line. Right? You can't disagree with me.
You got to watch some of it last year. It's a lot different playing against men than it is playing.
World. It is. They had a taste of it last year for meaningless games, but I get it. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do. They do have Jack Roslovic, who's okay. I don't think he's good, but he's okay. He had like 45 points last season, and he was a +2 on that team.
Do teams get to the playoffs with their number one center being Boone Jenner?
Probably not. And that's like I said on my take is I just feel like they don't have a number one center, that's going to be a big problem for them. But if I look at the Washington Capitals, they have Kuznetsov, but at the same time, I felt like he had a high year. I look at the other years on average, in the last 3 years he had on average. Last year was a high year for him.
He's not that old though. Like
he's
is still in his prime.
He's not, but I definitely see Washington taking a dip this year.
You got Stroman, Kuznetsov. It's not amazing, but I mean, also I had them in fourth. It's not like I'm having them winning the division by any means.
Right.
But and then Backstrom will eventually come back.
Yeah, maybe when it's like
near the end of the
60th game. Like by then it's like pointless. They're out of the playoff run anyways.
They're not going to be out of the playoff run by then.
Yeah, they will.
They're a competitive team.
They're a competitive team.
You think they're going to be in the playoffs, 15 of the last 16 years and then just suddenly miss?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll see if that works. We'll see if that works out for you, yeah.
I didn't have all the retirement home teams out of the playoffs, okay?
Sometimes.
I still have the Pittsburgh Penguins in there. That is an old team, a retirement home team.
I think you got to learn to respect your elders, young man.
Listen. They're an old team. Washington isn't going to make it. I like Ovechkin. I love Ovechkin. He will beat Gretzky's record, but listen, no.
Yeah. So what do you think? You think he's not going to score 45, 50 goals this year?
He will. But at the same time, that's just from him.
You don't think anyone else is scoring? You think everyone else is just shut down?
I think Oshie is going to be injured in like 5 games in the season.
That could honestly, I can't even argue that. That could be true. That could be true.
I had this guy in fantasy last year, and he almost never played a game for me. So.
Oh my gosh, freaking Oshie! Our team is pretty beaten up. But
and then look at that defense. You're gonna tell me that defense is good? Like other than Carlson, you're gonna tell me that's good?
I still would take Carlson over Werenski. And Werenski, speaking of injured and never playing, that guy's missed so much time in the last 2 years.
I agree, but you gotta look at the rest. How about Jake Bean? I thought he had a pretty good season.
Man, this guy's coming up here saying Jake Bean's going to carry this team to the playoffs. I can't even with him right now. Jake Bean, that's going to be your difference maker. The guy who couldn't even make it into the top 4 on Carolina. He's going to be your difference maker. Yeah, first round bust, Jake Bean.
I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah. Him and what's the other bust?
Boquist.
Boquist. Yeah, those two are going to carry, right? Jake Bean and Boquist, the number 1 first round bust tandem. They're going to carry that team.
Yeah.
I don't know if you even believe that. So now I got to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
What is it you have against the New Jersey Devils? You still have them at 7.
They're a good team. Like I said, they're a good team. But the problem is this division's too deep. This division's too good. There's not every team gonna make the playoffs. I like I said, I'm excited about their top 2 players in Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. They're the top young guys, I would say. And these are really, like I said, I expect Jack Hughes to break out this year to have 80 to 90 points this season.
What do you expect from Nico?
The problem I have with him is health. He's never healthy. He
gets banged up pretty easy.
He plays a very how would I say it? Like a role where he's gets like at risk of getting injured.
You don't think if he somehow goes down and the team is doing pretty well that they can just slide in Dawson Mercer there?
They did that last year. I think Dawson Mercer's an okay player. He's a good player, but I just feel like he can't fill the void of Nico Hischier just because I think I like his two-way game.
But he's not. Yeah, Nico's a better two-way player for sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I think the Devils are deeper than people give them credit for right now. I mean, they actually have quite a good top six.
It's not bad. I like John Marino. I like John Marino. That's a fantastic guy. I like Ryan Graves on the team. I like the ceiling whatever. Siegenthaler. Yeah, he's a good player. And I know you don't like me saying this, but I love my Severson, okay? So
that might be the one thing that keeps them out of being in the fifth. The guy's in the penalty box every.
But do you really trust Vitek Vanacek is gonna be the guy?
Honestly, first off, I'm not that much against Mackenzie Blackwood. I think Mackenzie
Blackwood is okay.
He's just had some really bad injury luck lately. But honestly, I think if he is healthy, he could still be the starter. Vanacek would. Well, actually, honestly, I think they're gonna split. I think they're both gonna play about 40 games in this season. I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
And if you had seen how bad the goaltending was last year, like just being average would have put this team like 10 extra wins. It was atrocious. Like the worst goaltending. It was other than maybe Seattle. Seattle's the only team I could think with worse goaltending than New Jersey last year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Anything you want to go at me at?
Nah, I think I got you. I mean, I can't wait for everyone to see when Philadelphia's last by a country mile, maybe like 10 points lower.
No, that ain't gonna happen. John Tortorella, you gotta do me proud. You gotta make my predictions correct.
Yeah, John Tortorella's gonna save you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah.
He's a saving savior.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see how this goes.
He's gonna be a hard ass on that team. Just watch. He's gonna make each player eat healthy. He's gonna make sure they don't drink beer.
Yeah,
he's gonna make.
Is he gonna go get some pixie dust and rub it on Morgan Frost and Owen Tippett and say, "Hey, you guys can be good now"?
Yeah, he's gonna spank them.
Yeah, he's gonna. Okay, on that note, I think we're gonna have to lead this to the end of the episode here before we get some kind of lawsuit against us.
So you gotta tell us in this comment section below who do you think won? Who do you think is closer? Who has the better projection? Okay, and make a comment. Yeah, but if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace, guys.